So in the old days, it was like the king, and even after the Zhao dynasty, the kings, whenever they felt like it, or the concubine told them, hey, I don't like the general, he's doing a bad job, why don't we replace him with my cousin? Yeah, okay. No. Zhao Manwang was told in no uncertain terms, and his two sons, who succeeded him, were told in no uncertain terms, the general at the battlefield is the king. No two kings. You cannot give him a second order. And he also taught the generals how to behave. The generals were told, in winter, whatever your foot soldier, the lowest foot soldier wears, that is what you wear. You cannot wear thick fur if the lowest foot soldier is wearing a piece of silk cloth or a piece of fennel cloth. You wear fennel cloth. That is the rule in the Zhao dynasty. If everybody is carrying supplies, you have to get off your horse and carry supplies. Zhao generals did that under Zhao Manwang. If the foot soldier was carrying a log, he also carried a log. At meal times in war, the Zhao general cannot eat before anyone else. When all is served and ready to eat, they eat together. When food is in short supply, you must eat the lowest of the grains along with your foot soldier. If your foot soldier can only have 1/4 bowl of the harshest rice, so be it. That's what the general eats. And they follow it to the nth degree. And the soldiers fight to the death for the generals because the generals have their fullest respect. These are all from the teachings of Keong Tai Kung. The concept of mandate of heaven, that the right to rule passes to the Zhao and Zhao Manwang and his son Zhao Mowang, was universally accepted in not just the Zhao kingdom, but in fact by a lot of people even in the Shang kingdom. People felt that there was this guy who was such a towering figure that everybody wanted to be subject. The minister standing next to the Shang king was saying, inside he's got a t-shirt going, "Go Zhao, go Zhao," So this was where it was. And so when the time came to find, right, even the lazy old cow who was sort of, having a good time in the Zhao dynasty, spent most of his afternoons semi-retired and wallowing in the mud, they got the message. Time for Zhao Manwang to be king of China. Even the cow stood up and said, "Enough of this bullshit," he says. It's time for me to rumble with those rhinoceros and other wild animals from the Shang dynasty. Every man, dog, cat were behind him. This was the mood of all those people who knew of the Zhao dynasty. They were behind him. These old uncles and aunties who are retired in their 70s, who spent their life farming, and suddenly they'll stand up and say, "Actually, I've been practicing Qigong secretly. I'm ready to take on the Shang generals." The people wanted change. Down to the last atom of their body, they wanted change. They wanted to back him. Zhao Manwang, what happened was, after they defeated the barbarian tribes, Xiong felt so threatened, they sent troops in there to crush Zhao, even before it started. So Zhao had to fight a war of resistance. And you can ask all these great historical generals, all the way down to the great leaders of the Vietnamese Revolution against the French and the Americans, and they will tell you Keong Tai Kung is their superstar because it was he who so inspired every person to so love their country, to love every blade of grass, to love every hill, to love every river, every lake, that everybody gave their best. And some people call him the father of revolution, the father of defense of a nation. All the people were behind, and they not only fought off the conquerors from Shang, right? Zhao Manwang was really very old. Different records say he died 98, some say 108, but he was very old. Zhao Manwang died, and his son Zhao Mowang took over the mantle. And Zhao Mowang was actually the guy who defeated the Shang at the Battle of Muye. When he eventually pushed forward into Shang territory, Muye is something like 35 kilometers from the capital city, right? And that was where the big battle was fought. And the last Shang king said, "Mate, you don't know what you're in for. I have 530,000 standing army with huge experience, armed to the teeth. I have 170,000 slave soldiers who are what you call, they are the gladiators. They're not just slaves, they're slave warriors, gladiators. And how much have the Zhao dynasty? Zhao dynasty had apparently, some people say, between 500 to 800 noblemen, from kings to dukes and tribal leaders, to join them. Okay? And totality of something like about 35,000 troops. Matched up against about 700,000, they're outnumbered about 20 to 1. But they won. Because Kyong Tai-kung is a military strategist probably unequaled in history. His formations were such that, one of which, the famous one, one of the most famously quoted one was his, what you call it, dark cloud formation, Wu Wan Zhan. Apparently, whenever it comes to the topography, this Kyong Tai-kung knew every square millimeter of ground. And whatever these guys brought, from fighting elephants to, you know, whatever weapons, how many weapons it came, suddenly Zhao Manwang and the Zhao troops will appear from every nook and cranny. And the troops will come out like dark clouds mushrooming. They were always blindsided. Whatever formations the Shang had, he would destroy them. Right? He was an incredible military strategist. Now, some people say he also had super intelligence. Apparently, there were no end of people on the Shang side who were happy to sell information across or whatever, you know, show loyalty to the side. But whatever the case was, Zhao Mo Wang, the successor of Zhao Manwang, Man, civil, Mo, military. Zhao Mo Wang is one of the greatest warriors in Chinese history. People never heard of him because such a long time ago. But there was an incident when he met the barbarian tribes, and the incident was called Yat Jin Teng Tin Ha. One arrow stabilized the earth. What happened was the barbarian tribes were very, very good warriors. They cornered the Zhao groups. Zhao were a small group. So they came charging in, and Kyong Tai-kung said, how about this? Rather than we slaughter each other, let's have a contest. You get your best general. He'll shoot an arrow at Zhao Mo Wang. At that time, not Wang Yan, Zhao Mo Wang. And Zhao Mo Wang also shoot an arrow. Who hits each other with one arrow wins. Right? If nobody gets hit, draw. If both get hit, also draw. So the barbarian guy said, sure, I have the best archer in the world, man. So he shot at Zhao Mo Wang. And Zhao Mo Wang waited for him to shoot first. Split his arrow as he was coming in. So the barbarians were so impressed, they surrendered for the day. They said, okay, you won today. They all pulled out. But equally, this expression, Yat Jin Peng Tin Ha, also applied during the period of Three Kingdoms, when the greatest warrior of that time, a guy called Loi Po. Loi Po was sitting down there one day when Yun Xiu's general and troops came to capture Lao Bei. And Lao Bei was outnumbered, they were a very small army then. So Loi Po thought this is my chance to show what a great guy I am. He said, guys, don't fight. How about you give face to me? Take my halberd out, huge halberd. It's got a tassel. Take it 150 steps, he asked his soldiers. 150 steps is like 150 yards, because one step is like about 3 feet, you know, one pace. So 150 yards away. So put that halberd there. You can't even see the halberd. Halberd looks like less than a straw from this distance, like a toothpick. And you can imagine the tassel of the halberd and how small it is. So he said to the general from Yun Xiu's side, and says, listen, my good friend, he says, if I can shoot the tassel off with one arrow, can you promise to withdraw your troops and let's have a drink and call it a day? The general thought, this guy's going to be nuts, man. The arrow won't even reach 150 yards, let alone hit the tassel of the halberd. So Loi Po already had quite a few drinks, but of course Loi Po was Loi Po, one of the greatest warriors ever. Straight spear, boom, and shot the tassel off. And the general goes, oh dear, I'm going to hit my head off because I lost the bet, but that's a famous story. Also, Yat Jin Peng Tin Ha. Loi Po is also one of the greatest warriors ever. What's more important is what Kyong Tai-kung had laid down for them as the yardsticks of behavior. What happened was, when the kingdom was established, Zhao dynasty, is Gong Seng San Tui. Time's up, he retired. But of course, he was given the province of Shantung today, which at the time was called Chai State. So he was given Chai, And his descendants went on to become dukes that ran the kingdom of Chai for, I think, 16 generations, during which time they were the most powerful province of China by far and the most educated. Tai Gong was supposed to be 72 years of age when he met Zhao Manwang. Wow. Okay, now one theory was that he was a senior official who retired, waiting for Zhao Manwang to turn up and adopt this disciple. Another story was that 72 years he spent on earth after being sent from heaven. These 72 years he spent perfecting his skills to teach to Zhao Manwang. Zhao Manwang died before the civil war was fully successful. Zhao Manwang declared the civil war, won on home ground, but Zhao Manwang took it to the Shang dynasty. Beat them. Of course. And in fact, Zhao Manwang was married to Kyong Tai Kung's daughter. On record. Zhao Manwang. And Zhao Manwang didn't live very long. Zhao Manwang had many injuries in battle. Okay, and it was so bad that at one stage he nearly died. He was near death, and even Kyong Tai Kung with all his medicine wasn't sort of making great progress. So apparently, Zhao Dan Kung, his fourth brother, who later became equally famous or more famous than him, actually went on the sacrificial stand, and went up to the sacrificial stand and made a prayer to heaven and said, he took his knife out and cut his hand, and with his blood he offered, and he said, if my life can be used to exchange my brother, I willingly die. I ask heaven to take my life now or any time so that my brother can live. So what happened was Zhao Manwang survived, but he cut his own hand and the blood and gave a libation. He says, my brother is more important than me. He is the future king. I'm only his fourth brother. So he offered him.